Okay, Gerald, I'm going to go ahead and go through the list, and I'll ask each individual to introduce themselves. Let us know if they're a rep or an investor, and if they're an investor, in which of the Southern Star DSTs they're an investor in. So when I call on you, and I'll be calling based on the list that I have on the screen, so I might not have all the numbers or all the names, but if you could then just unmute yourself, introduce yourself, let us know whether you're a rep or an investor, and if you are an investor, please let us know which of the Southern Star DSTs you're an investor in. So I'm going to start with Dan Weary.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for putting together the call, Jim and Gerald. Thank you for your time. I'm a rep and an investor in Montrose too.
Thank you very much, Dan. Rick iPad.
Rick Burbelt. I'm an investor, and I'm invested into Montrose Airports and one other one. I forget how which one it is, but I think that's enough.
Okay, thank you. William Winterhalter.
Hi, I'm his wife, Bobby Winterhalter, and we're an investor, and we're in storage at airports.
Thank you. Chuck Copisis. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name.
Coposis. I'm an investor, and I'm an investor in Montrose too.
Thank you, Chuck. Ivan West.
I'm a rep.
Thanks, Ivan. Let's see. Now I have Jim.
Jim Reichel. I'm an investor in the Southern Star self-storage buildings.
Do you know which one, Jim?
Oh, there are four of them, and I'd have to look them up, I guess.
Are you an investor in all four?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate that. Michael Steinthal.
I'm a rep.
Thank you, Michael. Kirk Thompson.
Yeah, I'm an investor in Southern Star Airport.
Great, thank you very much. Mark.
I'm a rep.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, good to see you. Okay, now this is just a telephone number, 626-372-3379. And I think they're just joining us by phone. Do we have 626?
Brian Seward.
I'm sorry, say again?
Brian Seward, I'm an investor. Brian Seward, I'm an investor.
Okay, and do you know in which DST?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. I have 966-893. Do we have an 866-893? Can you please unmute yourself? I can see you, but can you, 966-893, would you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Nine six six eight nine three. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Hi, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Yeah, unfortunately your microphone is not working. Then we have Henry Moore.
Yes.
Hi, would you please introduce yourself? Let us know if you're a rep or an investor.
Investor.
And can you tell us, please, which of the DSTs you're an investor in?
Rockport.
Okay, thank you very much.
Renee.
Let's see. And then we have Harry White.
Hey, I work for the managing broker of Southern Star Rockport.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. We have Dominic. I don't know if Dominic can hear, but Dominic
I'm here.
is the.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm at a hotel, so I'm back. I'm at a conference. But Emerson Equity.
Yep, great. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Thanks, Jim.
I have iPhone. Whoever's the user iPhone, would you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself? We've got Jack Rella, who I know is the CEO of Metric Financial, which is the managing broker-dealer for Rockport. Janet? Janet Amundson, would you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself? We've got Kirk Thompson. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
So, investor in Southern Star Airport.
Okay, thank you. We have Ronald. Ronald, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Ronald Seward, investor, airport.
Okay. And then I know that we have Alex Board, who is with Silver Star, Southern Star. Is there anybody whose name I missed? Did we get Kirk Thompson?
You got Kirk. You also have Adrian Collins. I'm the general counsel of Silver Star.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Okay, I think that we got everybody. We had a couple of people who weren't able to unmute themselves or introduce themselves, but we've only got a couple of those. My name is Jim Shaw. I'm the independent trustee and the advisor for Southern Star Investment Company. My role is to act as an independent trustee to assist in the operations negotiations regarding the DSTs in Southern Star. I'm not affiliated with any of the broker dealers involved. I'm not affiliated with Southern Star, and I'm not affiliated with Silver Star. Again, my role is to be the independent trustee to work on the benefit of the reps and the investors, working collaboratively with Silver Star, Southern Star to make sure that we stabilize the properties, make them sustainable, make them profitable, and hopefully begin to restart distributions as soon as possible. So I'm going to turn this over to, I'm going to ask everybody, yes.
Can you ask everybody to mute? We're getting some feedback.
I was just about to do that. So everybody, would you please mute yourself? And Gerald, I know as the host, you have the ability to mute everybody. Please mute yourself so we don't get any feedback. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gerald Haddock. Gerald, please take it away.
Okay. Man, I feel like this is, I don't know if it's England Brothers or who it may be, but we're here to have fun, get everybody up to speed, and it's not intended to be a circus. If everybody is muted, then I'm going to make a few introductory comments. Jim, did you do it just to count? How many people do we have on the phone? Roughly. Jim, you're on mute too.
Yeah, sorry. I was muted. Yeah, so I show that we have 24 participants, including the Silver Star, Southern Star team.
Okay. Well, this is a real good turnout. I think, Jim, in introducing this call, what did you describe as a purpose?
Well, I informed everybody, at least, I informed all the reps and asked them to invite their investors and said that you were going to be providing an update as to the activities that have occurred at the Southern Star DST offerings, give us kind of an idea as the path forward. But again, it's really more, let us know what has happened to date since the Silver Star team has taken over Southern Star, what activities are going on at the individual properties as far as improvements physically to the properties and financially to the properties. Discuss the loan arrangement that's been made between Silver Star and Southern Star to help stabilize the properties, make them sustainable and begin distributions again. And then just, again, give kind of a general update as to what to expect over the coming months.
Okay, I got it. That's helpful. Well, I think at the outset, it's important to point out that two of the people that are on this call, Dominic and Jim Shaw, have been very instrumental, along with the entire Silver Star team, and one, communicating on a regular basis, two, organizing the relationship between Southern Star and Silver Star in order, A, to determine the situation, doing a deep dive investigation on our part, and then finally come up with a plan going forward. So with what Jim just described, and as long as he and Dominic, we've been
The
doing
connection's
this.
better.
Pardon?
Stephen, can you please mute yourself?
Over here.
Yeah, Stephen, I've already started. I'm sorry, you must be late. Can you put yourself on mute because you interrupted me? So from the beginning, Dominic and Jim Shaw have been very, very instrumental and helpful in through our communications and getting off to a good, I'd call it a ground floor start. As everyone knows, Silver Star just closed out a significant SEC investigation. That allows for a real fresh start and more license with respect to, as we go forward, what can be disclosed, what actions we can take, and a clearer view as to where our path may end up with respect to those we're starting down now. From the beginning, there were significant target items by everyone, derivative claimants, SEC, with respect to activities at not Silver Star, but at Southern Star prior to the Silver Star acquisition. Silver Star acquired Southern Star in about late April, May of 23. That acquisition occurred as a result of negotiations between Michael John Kudlick, Lou Fox, and Mark Torek. Torek was then the CEO for about 6 months of Silver Star. In order for Torek to sign a longer-term CEO contract, we had to negotiate a purchase of that company. As part of those negotiations, the three owners of Southern Star extracted commitments from Silver Star that Silver Star would not engage in the operating management of Southern Star, and Southern Star would be operated as an autonomous company. That continued for a significant period of time. At such time as Torek left, things changed. Financing at Silver Star was not achieved with respect to the $250+ million plus debts that had been left over from the Hartman era, exceeding $300 million. Then Silver Star, led by the executive committee, I happen to be executive chairman of the executive committee and chief executive officer of Silver Star. It was along that path that Dominic and Jim and I were all talking about various solutions of the issues that were obviously there at Southern Star, which included items that the SEC was investigating, which including significant operating issues, which included good properties, but they needed tender loving care. They needed attention. I have sitting with me here, and I'll have him say a few words in a minute, Oscar Flores, who is now the managing director of Southern Star. brought him in personally. The executive committee, recognizing these problems, embarked upon a strategic analysis. And we reported the results of that to Jim Shaw and Dominic and the group of representatives there. As I recall at this time, the three items that were included in that analysis was sell the company, 2, engage an outside advisor, 3, turn it around themselves. We did deep dives. The entire executive committee studied it. I had 2 what I call summit meetings called by me, CEO of Silver Star, that included prior management, prior ownership, Michael John Kudlick, Lou Fox, Mark Torek. Even though Torek had left, I convinced him to come back and help. And we had a real, hour and a half, 2-hour summit meeting the first time, explored in detail what everyone's view happened to be with respect to the problems, how they could be cured, and what was the best course of action. That was going on at the same time that we were developing these 3 strategic paths for consideration. We got consistent input from that summit. We studied it. Then we had another summit. We pushed again, and it centered around paying attention, doing things. We had a lot of people on the call that were defensive. I had to cut through a lot of red tape to get answers, but got what I needed. If we'd sold the property at the end, we had appraisals done. We would have sold Southern Star for 50 cents on the dollar. That would have been the bid if there were any bids. You guys probably wouldn't want to talk to the prior owners if that had happened. Second, the cost of outsourcing the company was horrendous. Silver Star is engaging in a pathway of developing self-storage as it's converting out of commercial office. It's a long ways there. We started out with 47, 48 commercial office properties, at best B+, B-, C+. We have sold a substantial number of those assets. We expect to sell 11 more by the end of the year. We've got, slightly north of 15 that are left. Of the $340 million in sales proceeds we've received, we paid off debt, not totally, but we've paid $310 million on the Silver Star debt, and we expect to be out of the debt and totally shortly after the end of the year. So Silver Star is doing great. In addition to that, we have bought 4 Class A institutional storage assets, 2 in Houston, 1 in McKinney, North Dallas, and what I think is really our crown jewel, which is Delray Beach in Florida. It's a beautiful asset. Delray will be the beneficiary of many first-time buyer homes. That's beginning to happen. It's a top residential community north of Miami, and we're really concentrating on that asset. Well, that gives us 4 assets, institutional quality, and we're pausing right now on this conversion in order to give us a chance to evaluate more clearly any of these commercial office that we would like to retain. But we're doing fine. We understand the self-storage business. These assets are working as they're supposed to work, but there's a major difference. Those are A assets. Tertiary, secondary markets which Southern Star sold. And I've studied the PPM. Not at the time, we had nothing to do with Southern Star until as Dominic and Jim and I and the Silver Star team started working together. And we decided that we're going to work hand in glove. We're developing over here on the institutional side. We've got 9 assets here that we own 100% of through Southern Star today. Initially, we didn't own any of them. We only came into ownership of these assets when we acquired the company from Cudlick, Ork, and Fox. They were the virtually stockholders of the company. We didn't take over management till after Torque was gone, and then completely after Fox stepped down and his wife, who was a bookkeeper, stepped down, and we told the SEC there's a new sheriff in town. That's us. I don't have my sheriff cap on, but I can go get it right over here. And that's what we're here to do. And I think Jim and Dominic know that. So if you're in our position and we're going in the self-storage business, wouldn't it behoove us to turn this company around? And wouldn't that be a good message to all of our stockholders and the DST holders and everyone associated with Southern Star? Well, at first blush, well, I got a lot of advice that we should outsource this. I got advice that we should sell it. But that was advice that didn't look to the long term. I want to turn this company around, Southern Star, because it helps us set a pattern with our management style, our abilities, and our commitment to grow Silver Star. So the two work together. And I've talked about on many times, we want to be in the DST business at Silver Star. It's a good way to build critical mass. It's a good way to get common usage and take advantage of operating leverage. There's no reason we shouldn't put these two companies under the same management team. So I vetoed the sale. You don't want 50 cents on the dollar. I mean, you wouldn't want my name associated with it, and I wouldn't want my name associated with it. So I vetoed that. I also vetoed the outsourcing. And it was with a company that was managing 2 of our properties at Silver Star. I don't know how long they're going to manage it. We're going to be internally managed. I hate to say it. I'm just not a fan of third-party management. I grew up at Crescent Real Estate. Actually, I grew up as a partner in a law firm in Houston, Fulbright Jaworski. And Crescent Real Estate, I founded with Richard Rainwater, financier in Fort Worth. Bass family had an interest in it. Crescent Office Towers and the Crescent Hotel in Dallas, probably the best property in the state of Texas. I compare it, we own 2 Ritz-Carltons. I like to say the Crescent model rather than the Ritz-Carlton model, because it's a luxurious style, but it's also open to everybody. You'll find every basketball team, everyone that comes into Dallas to play the Mavs, where do they stay? Crescent Hotel. I used to go over there and meet them when they were coming in, have, a session with Michael Jordan when he was coming by. It was just fun to do. It just, we knew all the owners. That was fun. That's a class operation. We're establishing that same operation with the office properties at Crescent Office Towers and Oscar Flores. Oscar, step over here and just wave so everybody can see. Oscar is doing that at every one of your properties. I'm going to pause and let Oscar, what have you done, Oscar, in the last 4 months? And where'd you start and how did it happen? And how are we applying something better than what this company saw before we got into it. And Oscar and I worked, how long? 7 years, 8 years together?
Yep.
At where?
Crescent.
That's the magic word, guys. All right, Oscar, your show for just a few minutes.
Sure, of course. Okay, I'm going to start with reiterating what Mr. Haddock mentioned. When I started looking at the properties, first of all, I wanted to visit all of them, and I did. Secondly, I wanted to do the approach of how do I increase our occupancy, thereby increasing our revenues. And from what I saw is that there was kind of a stagnant in approach, mainly with how we can get exposure. So if we can get more exposure, we can increase our occupancy, thereby increasing revenues. So what I initiated is a campaign to engage all of our chambers of commerce, because that will give us, first of all, exposure, but secondly, resources that we can use and utilize to enhance our position, our approach to increase. So at each property, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to check our avenues of ways to increase. And we started with the chambers of commerce. Secondly, we branched out and did marketing, because from what I saw, there was not a whole lot of marketing going on. So I instituted a marketing campaign. We had flyers. I mean, I'm talking grassroots. We're building it from the bottom up. Thus far, all of our properties have increased in occupancy. Some incrementally, but some very, very well, up to 10%. So that is the direction that I wanted to institute. Secondarily, I wanted to make sure that we continue to increase and do not let up on our marketing. That's very key from what I understand, from what I've witnessed, from what I've seen. So that is what I've been focusing on. And also keeping our facility managers involved. I talk to them almost every day, all 9 property facility managers. And I'm engaged 24/7 for them to talk to me. If they have any questions, issues, concerns, I'll take care of it and we'll address it and proceed from there. So that is what I've been doing, and we've had great results. And so I'm going to continue that direction.
I think Oscar is I just can't tell you how excited we are here. People, you could guess, his first stop was George West. He was a hero. South Texas. He fit in pretty well.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So the community loves it. But that's happened everywhere. Addison, Plano, North Dallas. He invited me to one of his ribbon cuttings that he's had or planned to have at every property. Mayor, head of the Chamber of Commerce, major users, businesses in the area, people that are interested in community affairs. I got invited to one of them. It was the one in Addison. It was fantastic. I felt like a hero while Oscar was cutting the ribbon. I got to give a speech. I got to talk about the Crescent Bottle to everybody that was there. So that's a marketing effort that this entire enterprise is engaged in. I'll just point, I keep it on a whiteboard here, at George West, for example. In April, the occupancy was 54.3%. And on September the 9th, it was already up 10 percentage points to 64. And same thing generally, across the board. NOI at Addison in April was 10,000 a month. June, it was 18,000. Is that a good number?
That's great.
That's a big increase. Occupancy at Plano was 72 in April, 83, 81 in September. You lost 2 points from April to September. You probably need to give that one a little more attention. But Oscar's doing a great job. I see some lights going off. Y'all getting tired of this? Or you want to hear more?
I think we want to hear more, Gerald. I would ask if I can, I don't mean to interrupt, but appreciate very much talking about the marketing. One of the concerns was that the properties under the prior management had experienced deferred maintenance. Their curb appeal had really gone down. So, I mean, it's great to do marketing, but obviously if the curb appeal is not strong. But Oscar, I think that you have spent quite a bit of effort and progress in correcting and curing deferred maintenance and improving the curb appeal. Might you perhaps touch on that just for a moment?
Absolutely, not a problem. Each property, as I site visited, I made a note and I spoke directly, obviously, with the facility managers to ask them, tell me what's wrong with this property. And like you said, in terms of curb appeal, and I would get some input, and I would proceed with receiving quotes for the repairs, improvements. Even if it's just landscaping, it still works. And so we get the quotes, and we've been improving each property where it requires the most. And everyone on our side reviews it, and we get approval, and we proceed with executing it. So that's been going hand in hand with our marketing effort. Yes.
Great.
Well,
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Oscar.
where he started is with surveillance cameras that work, keys that worked, access individually rather than in block, if you will, which doesn't make any sense. There's still improvements, paint, doors that have got cracks in them, cement that's cracked across the board. Worst case, Oscar's being nice. I'm not nice. I'm here to fix, whether it's from the top down or the bottom up. One of our properties, Havelock, is that the right one?
Yes.
On the signs?
Yes.
For 2 years. Site experience, Oscar discovered that the signage outside had the wrong phone number on it. Had the wrong phone number for 2 years. How do you attract customers? These are problems that needed to be fixed. They're now getting fixed across the board. But we're just at the beginning of getting these numbers. The deferred maintenance, there's more. There's money that needs to be put in these master tenant reserves for deferred maintenance. As a result of that, Silver Star, no obligation, as I've told Jim and I've told Dominic on several occasions, Silver Star doesn't have an obligation to put one dime in this company. We didn't issue the PPM. We bought the company, quite frankly, under duress, get a CEO. But for the reasons I was stating, we have reasons to do this. We're not philanthropic. I mean, we're not the Good Samaritan. Don't anybody ever accuse us of being a Good Samaritan. These are economic, financially driven reasons why we think we can turn this company around for your benefit and our benefit. It makes sense for everybody. We're now becoming a team on this side of the equation. In order to enable Oscar to continue what he's doing, and one of the principal reasons we asked Jim didn't insist on it. We invited Jim to be a trustee acting on behalf of Southern Star to negotiate with Silver Star on any related party transactions. Well, the big one got started, and that is a Silver Star commitment to invest by debt $1 million in Southern Star to help with deferred maintenance, to help with beautifying with respect to, it's not going to be paying salaries, but it's going to be taking care of the properties, which you have the strongest interest in. But a property that's not operating right, that does not look right, does not have the right telephone numbers out there, just doesn't work. So Oscar's got to be on, he'll be on the road a lot, and he'll be developing new field managers. We've already replaced a handful of managers on the site. What Oscar found that they weren't showing up, absentee management, no oversight. That's going to be changed. As a result of this, that money is now available for a loan for the same reasons that we talked about before, and Jim will help us oversee that. So we've got a lot of plans in the works, and just to do a capsule summary here, we've taken over the operating management. That was announced public press release. We've changed the internal management completely. We're working on occupancy. Net operating income will come. We made some strategic decisions to decrease rental rates in some areas. And quite frankly, other areas, we're looking at converting a few 15 by 10 units into additional 10 by 10 because they're the most attractive right now. And we've got the highest occupancy rate. And also because we're full and this provides additional supply, increasing the rates. So with some of the changes that we've made just by strategic thought, analysis, and a focus, we're confident that the NOI will come in short term here. I think we'll have some numbers. We'll have financial statements that are worth distributing, sometime probably no later than the mid fourth quarter. That's a target. With investors and broker reps, SEC rules govern what we distribute. It's impossible to distribute internal baked. I get a lot of numbers because our finance people give them to me, but I push to get them early, and they're not audited, they're not financially baked, and until they are, they're not suitable for distribution. As soon as we have numbers available, then hopefully you can see that we're taking charge. We are in charge, that we'll be able to give you numbers. Our goal is, as is our goal of our executive committee, is to have regular monthly operating financials that show the trends on a regular basis between the size of the property, the location, competitors in the area, and how we're doing. And Oscar, it better be going up, partner.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's our goal, and I am really confident that we'll get there. But everybody's just got to be patient. We stepped in. Jim asked me every week, well, when can we make distributions? We would have sold this company and not have to make any distributions for 50 cents on the dollar. When we make distributions, you think we want to start at a penny and then cut it to a half a cent? I don't think so. We want to make sure we got a substantial, sizable cushion and can get this thing rolling in the right fashion. That means getting the operations be able to pay the leases, and for the leases to then pay the debt. And we're beginning, there's pushing of debt out here that we're also talking to the service people about. So we have to run the company and work on some of the most all of the relationships with lenders to ensure that we get time. Well, our first point of attack. Look, trust me, we believe these distributions are important, but you all know equity is at the bottom of the food chain. These lenders, you want us to take care of first. If the lenders don't get taken care of, that, you know what's going to happen to that 50% you could have gotten? Going to be much less. So this is going to take patience. You bought into this as an accredited investor, and you understand the risk of real estate, and you understand the risk that has occurred with real estate across the world, quite frankly, but particularly in the United States. And if you think Houston, Texas hadn't suffered with commercial office, go ask those big office building owners downtown Houston. Ask them in Dallas. This is almost a repeat of 1986. I wish it were, because we started Crescent. I don't really, but we were an opportunist in 1990 to create Crescent to be able to go buy. We had capital to go buy all the properties that we wanted, and bought Greenway Plaza in Houston at 45 cents on the dollar. And, you know, it's probably 5 cents on the dollar based on its current valuation. So yeah, opportunities are opportunities. This is not an opportunity time. It was not an opportunity time for self-storage. I believe self-storage is going to be one of the best robust asset classes, and which is why Silver Star is converting into it with a pivot. As an aside, there's an attraction about these self-storage properties that gets missed in the markets today. I served on the board of Meritage Homes as a director for 20 years. Led the charge through the 2008 financial crisis. We survived. Stock at the bottom of that was $7. Today it's over $200. 5 years ago, we made a decision to adjust strategy. McDonald's has to adjust from a Big Mac to something else. Companies that do not adjust strategies end up dead. That's what happens. Meritage did it. First-time home buyers. Now we've got every political person in the world saying we got to help first-time home buyers. What does that do for self-storage? That's why we want to be there. That's why I picked self-storage. I'd like to bundle self-storage, you know, like Apple bundles TV product with home buyers, first-time home buyers. They're of the same ilk, same genre. First-time home buyers buy what? Smaller footprint homes, and they don't have storage. Everywhere there's a retail demand for first-time home buyers, there's a demand that's coming for self-storage. It's just not there yet, but it will happen. Sure as I'm sitting here, as sure as I created a lot of wealth at Crescent. We knew what was going to happen. You never know for sure. I mean, it could be a catastrophe. But now is the time to be in self-storage. I need you guys to have patience. So it gets down to the distributions. We're not going to have distributions for a while. We got to get the debt under control. Then we've got a base to go build. This operations has to be turned around. We're engaged in that every day. Oscar's going to be evaluating the management of every one of these properties. And anyone that does not buy into his attitude with respect to not only self-storage, storage, but self-storage selling will not be there. I guarantee you. I know this man. Wish I had more detailed information to give you. I think we're on the right track. If there's anything I left out that's important, Jim, from what we've done from the beginning to right now, ask me and I'll try to fill it in.
Thank you very much, Gerald. Right. Thank you very much and appreciate that. So I would like to just kind of summarize, if I may, because I believe this is the strategy that we've all been discussing, is that first, it's to stabilize the properties. Second is to make sure that the operations and the profitability is sustainable. and then is to really generate profits and therefore distributions to the investor. So it's stabilization, sustainability, and then profitability. You mentioned the loan from Silver Star to Southern Star, and I think it's very important for the reps and investors to understand that what we negotiated there with myself as the independent trustee is that this is a loan from Silver Star to Southern Star. It's not an obligation of the properties in the various DSTs, and it's not an obligation of the investors. So it's $1 million loan that Silver Star has committed to make to Southern Star to allow the properties to be stabilized, made sustainable, and then made profitable. But the repayment of that loan strictly is an obligation of Southern Star Investment Company. It's not in any way an obligation, an encumbrance, or a lien against the properties in the DSTs or against the DST investors. So realistically, the only way that Silver Star gets repaid that loan is if they're able to make Southern Star a viable ongoing company. It's not an obligation of yours. It's not an obligation of the properties in your DSTs. It is to be used to help stabilize the properties, make sure they're sustainable, and make sure they're profitable, and fulfill all the obligations of the properties and the master tenant. So I just think that that's a very important part, so that you're not concerned that somehow now there's an additional burden or encumbrance against the properties in which you are investors. And of course, while Silver Star has taken over the operations of Southern Star, you are the owners of the property. So it is different than in the REIT that Silver Star has, where the REIT is the owner of the properties. You all, as the individual investors, are the sole owners of the properties in the various DSTs. And my role and my goal is to make sure that you are represented to the best of my ability, to make sure that you're treated with fairness, and that's the tactics and the strategy that Gerald and Oscar have put together, and the entire Silver Star executive team, of, again, first, make sure that the properties are stabilized. Second, to make sure that they're sustainable on an ongoing basis. Third, to make sure that they're profitable, and then to be able to distribute or resume distributions to the investors, and prepare ultimately for the properties to be sold on a profitable basis. Following this meeting, we're going to be working on a couple of things to try to get to the investors, such as to get you definitive occupancy numbers of the various properties, and a comparative analysis of what the properties were, what the occupancy was when Silver Star took over effective control of the properties versus what they are now. So you can see the trends and the success that Oscar is achieving and striving for. And then also we want to get updated site pictures for you, because again, we know some of you had visited the properties and were less than enthused about the condition of the properties. And again, that's one of the reasons I asked Oscar that question, because the deferred maintenance has been cured or is in the process of being cured, and the curb appeal of the properties is being substantially improved. Things like what Gerald mentioned, where the sign had the wrong telephone number, kind of hard to rent storage space if they can't even contact you. So in the near term, it's get you some definitive information regarding occupancy numbers and updated site pictures. In the midterm, relatively near term, it's get definitive data regarding the financial operations at the properties. And again, one of the things that Gerald has committed to work with me on is to make sure, and Gerald's entire team, is to make sure that we're providing you with regular, detailed information and updates regarding the property, so that you're not left in the dark as far as what's going on. So, Gerald, I don't, hopefully you agree with all those statements, but I think that that's kind of, how I would summarize the situation and what our near-term and midterm goals are for the properties in the DSTs.
Yeah, I actually think that's very good. I appreciate those comments. And I think that's a good kind of round out of where we are and what's going on. There's certainly, I think what we've created, as I certainly implied, and that is, this has to be a win-win for both of us, for Silver Star, for the entire DST environment world. And to the extent that we're able to return to the distributions, then that means company is stabilized. We see a real future, and we then believe that we have a likelihood of getting the quasi-equity, quasi-debt investment paid back. Investment being made for the reasons I stated, but it'll be in everybody's interest. It's in everything we do is with a 360 view of what's going on. What's in the best interest of the DST investors, what's in the best interest of Southern Star, and what's in the best interest of Silver Star. So I think all of those are in sync. But we invited Jim in. It wasn't a push by anybody because we didn't have to. But we have collaborated well and have developed a good working relationship. But he was invited in to represent you, the DST owners, effectively. Southern Star, as Jim suggested, it has the unit interest and management authority and leasehold interest of the properties. And it also has the obligation to pay rent out of that. Then the DSTs have the obligation to pay the money to the bank, which is why in paying the bank and putting it in the top level, we recognizing our duty to you and the banks and everybody else, put it at the top of the list as well. So this is a multifaceted approach, but because of the potential complexity, it's important that we had Jim in the position he's taking on to make sure that everybody is in sync, representing all the different duties. I think it's about as good a system as can be developed to ensure that somebody here, we are, but we have, multifaceted obligations. Jim has one. That's you. So the collaboration here is going to be good. We're committed to it. Jim is committed to it. And as far as reporting, at some point, we obviously will revert to, what's required under the securities laws. We're going overboard right now. And we want to do that. But at some point, we can't give you information we can't give our Silver Star investors. So there's going to be a righting of the ship, and that'll hopefully arise in conjunction with the point that we've stabilized the company. That's our plan. Jim outlined the near-term aspects of the plan pretty well. So, Jim, I think between what both of us have said, we've probably covered the waterfront. Do you think that's enough for the day?
I think so, Gerald. Thank you.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, if you guys have got any questions, please route them to Jim, and then we'll be available perhaps to respond to those, Jim.
Yes, I would agree, Gerald. And so for all of the investors on the call, to the extent you have any questions, please route those through your registered reps. The reps all have my contact information and know how to reach me, and know that I will be responsive to their questions. Again, my only obligation is to you, the investors, and to the reps. And Gerald and I have we've got a good collaborative working relationship. We've locked horns a couple of times over this, but I think that we're both looking for the best outcome. But again, to the extent that you have questions, I will do my best to answer them. Just please route them through your reps. Your reps will get them to me. We'll try to get that communication. And again, in the near term, what we're anticipating getting to you is updated occupancy numbers and updated site pictures, both exterior and interior, so you can see the progress that's being made at the various properties.
Okay. Thank y'all very much. Have a good day. Always a pleasure to talk to real investors. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald.
Thank you,
Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
Thanks, everybody.
Judy, one day at a time. Okay? Whatever we get